Thank you, Ferran, for accepting my request for this interview.
Yeah, I was really excited to be offered.
So let's start with um, who you are, what you do.
So currently, I am working at AdventHealth as a Scrum Master within their digital group.
And as a Scrum Master, what's your day in life?
It varies. Every day is a new day. Um, I'll say on a great simple day. On a great simple day, wake up before daily stand up. I look at the board, look at notes from the previous day. From there, I write down what I need to talk to the team about to get ready for daily stand up, whether it be their blockers or their notes from the previous day. Go into morning meetings. From morning meetings, talk to them face to face, virtually, what happened. And then it's a 15-minute meeting, so then it turns into takeaways. So one-on-one conversation, what we talked about at Daily Stand Up. That could be another 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how many people had information. Then from there, I go back to myself and work on the board again, because if someone didn't update the board or adding additional comments or questions, concerns, or calling out dependencies and just double checking what people said they said, or looking for people having blockers coming their way and they may not have identified it themselves yet within themselves or at daily stand up. Oh, I'm seeing, hey, it's mid sprint. You haven't touched this work. You may not be able to complete it to done before the end of the 2 weeks. So then that's by myself. And then by that point, it's usually lunchtime. If not, organic, spontaneous meetings have interrupted that, which makes it take longer. And then I'm like, okay, lunchtime. Sometimes there's meeting during, sometimes there's not. Then afternoon, come back, guns blazing. There's usually at least one Agile ceremony, if not a PO planned meeting. So from morning stand up, we weren't able to talk one-on-one, so we need a group meeting, more collaborative, 3 to 5 people from the team to make decisive answers to their questions at daily stand up. So a structured meeting like that. So 2 possible options. If neither of those happen on a normal day, then I'm usually talking to the PO on road mapping, needs from them, things that I'm seeing from a Scrum Master perspective. And if that isn't even happening, then I'm road mapping myself as execution. So then I can talk to someone above me to say, no one is seeing this, but I am seeing this and I need to tell somebody. So then that'll take me into the afternoon to then I'm ready to close my laptop and I'm writing my final notes before I can do it all over another day. That is my day. On a good day, simple day. Yes.
And then you have some special days where you have special activities like a sprint close.
Yes. So on those days, again, in my office will be like sprint closing days where you have more ceremonies like your sprint review, your retrospective, that would normally interrupt the times that I'm working on the board or doing those one-on-one check-in points. So those days are a little bit more full of ceremonies. And then it's just full of ceremonies, which is another word in the Agile world for meetings to show cadence and predictability, that structure.
And if I try to give a very high level idea, then every day you have a what do we call it, stand up or
daily stand? I mean, it depends on where you work. Some people will call it a daily stand up, an iteration stand up. Some people say DSU for short. So it depends on where you're working and what is the common words that office use. But nothing is wrong. It's just what does that office call it?
So every day in the morning, that's a place where you, product owner, all the programmers come together.
Yes, as a team. Whoever is identified as part of that team. So the people you mentioned plus possibly QA will come to say, this is what I'm working on today. This is where I can be collaborative with someone else. This is where I'm asking for collaboration. That is a come together moment where we can sync, ask for help, and communicate blockers. So everyone can know what's going on within your team.
Cool. I will ask one more question, again, to give an idea to anybody who is listening. At least in AdventHealth, our team, we do 2-week sprints. So So the process of identifying the work for that 2 week, how that happened?
How do we identify what can be completed within 2 weeks?
Right. How do team plan that this is what they will do for 2 weeks?
So it's a long process. So any Scrum Master will talk about like the storming, forming, norming, and then performing stages of team development. So within being able to plan your commit, and complete it within that 2 week iteration is a growing process. It will start at sprint planning. Granted, some people say it doesn't start at sprint planning, Ferran. It starts at backlog refinement. So it depends on who you're talking to. When does that conversation or plan on your commitment start? But I like to say it formally starts at planning, where you are saying, I can finish, I will commit to this for the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
In backlog refinement, it's more theory. We're still refining, so it just depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah. For those people, it's the concept of sprint zero, right?
Yes.
That's where you start, where you don't have any backlog. You come there, sprint zero, and then you figure out everything.
Yes.
So.
And you also can identify like what is going to be counted. So like we also have, I always talk about like we are not pointing bugs. So you're also, how is that part of your commitment? Some teams do make that part of your commitment and put that into their capacity of what we can finish in 2 weeks. Other people are more numeric. So they'll say, we will not accept more than 5 bugs. Those could be little baby bugs. That is just UI changes, or it could be logic changes that have created this bug. But they say we're not going to commit more than the number 5 of bugs. So it just depends.
So I don't remember why we started estimating bugs and tasks, but now we are not. And
I do not.
You do not. And we just had a conversation, Yvette and I. So she also stopped. And today I had a conversation with Aaron.
Okay.
And throughout digital group, we will not estimate tasks, bugs,
Okay.
moving forward.
Okay. I mean, it depends on what is the collaborative agreement. I do find value that there's a consistent agreement because what we find is that the teams are being judged by different things. So for my specific situation, my teams don't point bugs. But we have comparison that it's apples to apples. So then people would say to me, well, Ferran, as Scrum Master, how do you allow your teams to undercommit if they're committing only 30 points? And I said, what do you mean? My team is undercommitting. They're guns blazing all the time. Oh, but your team is committing 30 points and other teams, which is an Agile never should do, comparing other teams, is completing 70 something points. Right. So we talk about like, is it apples to apples? No. What is the difference? Why are you comparing teams? Are they the same people?
That happen within our department?
Yes. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. So
at least they didn't come to me.
No, they came directly on what is going on here and how is this justifying, and it's just part of it. Part of being a Scrum Master is advocating, explaining, and showing how you can grow. So it's interesting and new to me that as a department, we're deciding not to point bugs and tasks. And what was the third one?
Task, subtask, bugs.
Okay.
And then we sometimes call a spike
a task.
A task, right? So all those.
So on my teams, we do point tasks. So that'll be something new for me to bring to the team. So no more pointing tasks. Can I ask, how did we get to that point?
How did we?
Yeah, how was it agreed? Or what was the logic behind the agreement?
So honestly, I don't remember why we started. And I don't want to remember. But one of the things that we started doing in last 6 months is time tracking. So now everybody putting their time in these Jira tasks. So I have that additional information that I didn't have before. So now with the stories, we are estimating how much value we're producing. And then I have this in my back pocket if somebody need that additional information, or if I have to go and check something, I have that I could use. So with tasks, stories, and bugs, we have the actual time that somebody has taken to resolve it.
So then I ask because on the team level, I'm thinking team-specific Scrum Mastermind. In pointing tasks, I always ask my team to refine what is the task you are doing, even if it's a spike. So if the purpose is to learn about XYZ, what do you need the person to learn specifically? Then from there, you story point, okay, developer, I need you to learn specifically XYZ. The developer says, to learn XYZ specifically, I think is a story point 5 because of the complexity, the time, the people I need to reach out to. What makes me interested in this conversation is at the end of the day, the developer has maybe taken, for simplistic term, a week or a day to do that task, but that was part of their capacity. So now we're losing sight of the true capacity of that developer by not pointing task, which in the long term, the team may undercommit because we're not taking in the capacity of that task. Because it did take time, money, effort, and it is value.
Same thing applied to a spike, which is again task.
Yeah.
And it could be a to-do list of type task. So all those, my understanding is some of those are really hard to estimate compared to a story.
Yes.
And you have a very specific example, but in most of the time, task and spikes are not directly adding value, indirectly, probably. So that was my thought process.
Okay. I have nothing to add. I just feel like it's tomato. And I just want, what I found was that we were not specifically identifying what the developer need to do. So we would end up a sprint with a spike that the developer said, yeah, I looked at this, it's done. And then lo and behold, the PO was like, you didn't learn what I needed you to learn. And then the developer, I spent 3 days looking through the coding on their website and they didn't learn what was needed to be learned. So then we're creating another spike for them to specifically gain insight on a future feature within that item that they needed to learn about when it should have been explained what you needed to do.
So stories typically have that acceptance criteria type thing. Do you think those type of thing can be done here? Like if this is a task related to learning,
we do. On my teams, we do.
Right.
That is the acceptance criteria.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you need to know how to do this, and this. Example, amplitude. The acceptance criteria was, the spike was learn of amplitude. Within that spike, the acceptance criteria was understand what an event property is, understand how to create tags within our code for amplitude, and how to merge it. It's all a spike. You never actually created an amplitude tag, but you now have 4 things that you learned. So the next sprint, you can effectively put in the amplitude tag. Versus just say, learn about amplitude. What does that mean? What do you want me to learn? Learn about its stock ratings? So that's what we said. We asked for specific things.
And that's being a Scrum Master is. Right?
Yes, so level setting.
You have a product owner with an expectation, you have engineering team, programmers with an expectation, and you connecting the dot there.
Yes.
Right?
Level setting expectation, like that is my all day. What do you want? What can you do? And how do we meet in the middle? So it's really cool. I enjoy it.
So speaking to that part,
okay.
In the beginning, whenever you start a new team or whenever you join a new team, you go through a couple of activities.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
So in starting a new team, introductions, of course, they're called like working agreement, working sessions, Agile team kickstarters. Everyone calls it something different. It's whatever you want within your department, personalizing it. But everyone knows like your working agreement session was always my favorite. Get that done as soon as possible because your working agreement sets your expectation. No one wants to let down the team. No one wants to be that terrible teammate. So in a working agreement session, you're identifying what makes a good teammate and what we expect of others on our team and what I can expect of myself. So how do we want to work together? I've been on teams that it's been so precise and I say anal for lack of a better word, or more fun, like don't do stupid. Be a nice person. So it depends on the team. It depends on the Scrum Master. For lack of a better, what they will accept as part of a working agreement, what you know about the past team members, the new team members, for what you will accept and what you're going to guide them into wanting to make a conversation. Because you go into these working agreement sessions and people are just like, they don't want to be an active participant. So as a Scrum Master, sometimes you are facilitating the intriguing, like, do we want to talk about this? Mm-hmm. Like most recently it was having sessions that our Scrum Master and or PO cannot attend. Do we still find value in it? And do we still want to have this meeting? Some teams are like, yeah, we can backlog refine our own items as a developer team without the Scrum Master or PO. Other teams may say, no, if my PO and Scrum Master are here, I don't need to be here. So it depends on the people, the team, what stage in team development that team is in. Yes, so it depends.
And I try to oversimplify things. So a working agreement is something where a Scrum Master, product owner, and programming team comes with a blank slate.
And sometimes QA.
Yes. So they go there with a blank slate. And then they start talking. And within the next 30 minutes, everybody put their ideas of what agreement look like.
Yes.
One of the examples that Ferran was giving is should we have a backlog refinement if a product owner and a Scrum Master cannot attend? So team discuss that, and that become an agreement that if they are not, one of them are not there, that meeting is cancelled.
Yes.
So they go with blank slate, everybody discuss, come up with the idea, and then by the end of that 30-minute meeting, they have 5 to 10 agreement that everybody will follow.
Minimum requirements for the team.
And I love some of the agreement that come up, but consistently come up in each team is what's the definition of, is that a separate thing or working agreement?
I work it as a separate.
Okay, then we will talk about that. Okay. I was talking about working agreement, and this is our life. We get phone call, we jump into the call, we finish that call, we come back, and we continue.
Task switching at its finest. Yes.
But that's life as a Scrum Master, right?
Yeah, it really is.
You're there for other people, and however best you can plan your own day, it can change depending upon what other people needs.
Yes. Someone told me, what does it mean to you to be a Scrum Master? And what I told to them is to be humble. You have to be very humble in being a Scrum Master, in a sense that you are the cheerleader that no one sees. You are the riding champion that no one sees. You get none of the glory. You're a sidekick. Crazy.
Yes. Just checking it's working. Tell me more about that.
About getting none of the glory
Yeah.
and being humble as a Scrum Master?
Yeah, the glory part.
About getting none of the glory. So when I talk to people about wanting to be a Scrum Master, my first question to them is, do you need to be the head at all times? Because being a Scrum Master is not about being the head. You support. Let me rephrase. In true Agile, you and the product owner are counterparts. You guys are equal and opposites. You do totally different things, but you're equal and opposite. In a lot of organizations, the PO will get all of the sunshine, knowing that you and the PO are completely opposites. You counteract them and they counteract you. You do not do the same things. So when I say what needs to be a good Scrum Master is someone who does not need to be the light. They do not need to be the sun, but they know they add value to their team. That makes a good Scrum Master. That not everybody understands.
That was powerful. Thank you
No worries.
for sharing that. That can also indicate to the people who are not in day-to-day that they don't know what a Scrum Master is doing. Because you're working in the core soul of the team. And the people who are outside, they may not see all this.
They don't see. Example, there was a developer. He is leveling up in his career. He's been doing amazing things as a developer. And I checked in with him, you know, Scrum Master checking in on your team, and he just seemed worn, weathered, and burnt out. And he was just trying to push through it as we go through this big deployment and release. And I literally just said, take 2 days. Because he was so worn, so weathered, and he was trying to hide it, but you won't know that until as a Scrum Master you check in, like with your developer, like, you're doing nothing wrong. I just want to say, hey, what's going on in your world, like on that personal level, because that translates to them being productive. Like, I care about you as a person, as a colleague, but I also know that if you're dealing with things, you're not being as efficient as I need you to be to finish our project on time. So it's two-handed, but yes, you definitely have to be that heartbeat.
So how do you recognize that type of situation with someone?
Not really recognition, it's making time for it. Making time to check in. Like, things out. If I don't have time to check in with everyone specifically on a consistent basis, what I like to do at stand-up, as an example, most recently is like, today, tell me what is your idea of paradise. So I say, while you're giving me your update of yesterday, today, and blockers, give me a couple lines of what is to you a paradise. And just give people that opportunity to verbalize what is their paradise. And in doing that, you offer that moment for that person to just disappear and go to that spot, and the team to also go to that spot with that person. And then as a team, we are taking a moment to take a breath. And we're also learning about our teammate, learning about what it means to them. In this specific case, my question was paradise. Like me, it's the bougainvillea plant and like being on a beach wearing linen. And oh, I love that plant. Oh, I love beaches. What's your favorite beach? You have a moment of, you learn about your teammate. And I'm also learning what I need to learn about yesterday, today, and blockers. It's a connection point. You know what I mean? That is part of being a Scrum Master, and getting that moment and forcing them to take a moment. So sometimes they get overwhelmed and like, I have no idea, Ferran. And then I need to check in on that person if they can't even tell me what paradise is to them. And yeah, or the people that don't want to be an active participant. You can't tell me about your paradise. You're so checked out that I need to also check in on you. Things like that.
Okay. Those type of detail is what I love to grab. So initial questions where we answering, right? After that, this type of souls comes out.
Okay. So you want the extras.
Yeah, because, right?
Okay.
That's, but I don't force it.
No, it happens organically.
Organically comes, right? So now we're going to touch upon the definition of done, because it's so crucial for any team.
Yes.
And so I will let you speak, and then my own experience with definition of done, sprint close, and then we are having conversation. Okay.
Did it meet the definition of done? Because a developer will tell you, oh, well, it's basically done. What does basically done mean?
It work on my machine.
That's why the definition of done, you need to put it into an environment that someone that is not you can test what you did. A recording is not enough to meet the definition of done. But let's backtrack it. What is the definition of done? Definition of done is a standardized rule for the team to decide when, from sprint planning, work that was committed is completed. Definitely done. No questions about it. So as a team, you'll have a working session to identify, classify, detect, whatever word you want to use.
Become when you was in high school.
A lawyer.
Yeah, you told me.
Yeah. Was in debate all throughout high school. Loved debate. Prepped for pre-law. Applied for pre-law like Stetson. I was ready to be a lawyer. And I said, why don't I just go to school, get my AA in like business, and then from there, once I get my AA, then go over to pre-law. But it was while at FIU studying, I met some students in pre-law that were not pre-law, they were in law school. And FIU law program is top something. It's accredited, blah, 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 trifecta. The law students looked dead. Red eyes, no life balance, everything. Then I went further, started talking to lawyers, like interacting with them, having interviews, not interviews, but like, hey, can you please tell me about your day in your life of being a lawyer so I can know if this is what's for me? It was not for me. The lack of work-life balance, a lot of them were unhappy with the type of law that they ended up having a job in, was also another hint for me. And just not wanting to work all the time. That mattered to me. A lot of them didn't have families, or the stereotypical going through divorce, or they had a family that they never saw. Those are all things that you think are not frequent, and they may not be. There could be well-balanced lawyers, but from my information, my interviews, that was not seen. And I knew that is not the life I wanted to live.
I actually did not know all this about lawyer. I never considered that field.
I mean, I think it's cool. The precision in the way you communicate that's required to be a lawyer is so me. And to fight the good fight is so me. So everything about being a lawyer, I would love, except the not having, and the not having a work-life balance, some of them feeling they lost their soul being a lawyer, and that's just not what I want. Why would you do that if you know they said you could potentially lose your soul and being unhappy, but you spent so much time, money, effort to do?
So after that realization,
No, like, yeah, after that realization, I said no. So I went into business. I have my BA in business management, business administration, with international business, specializing in international business, and what is the second one? Business management.
So how did you find that you should do that?
I love cultures. I originally, after I realized not being a lawyer, I worked a lot of retail jobs in early 2000, and a lot of them were going abroad to expand their retail company. So I wanted to continue in the retail world, my love of clothes and fashion, and my previous experience of being in retail. I wanted to help those companies on their expansion to new countries. I loved culture, I loved retail, and I wanted to be a part of that. So, international business. And then management, because someone has to organize all of this work. International business with management.
So what happened then?
Then I traveled. And I realized I don't want to live in these places. I just want to vacation there. I don't want to live there.
So you went outside the country?
Yeah, just small travels. Like the one company was Express, and they were thinking about going to the Bahamas and the Caribbean islands. And of course, living in Florida, going to the Caribbean is very cheap. So I was going on different cruises and flights, and going to school in Miami at FIU, a lot of your classmates are international. So just going with them to their home country and just being like a local there was very eye-awakening. And I realized I don't want to live. I just want to visit. So
then what did you find?
So then I graduated and I got my first job with TTI as a field sales coordinator or field sales representative. And what that is purely sales. And TTI is a power tool manufacturing company. Yes.
Fancy.
A power tool. So if you ever go to Home Depot and you buy a Ryobi, Homelight, Rigid, Hoover Dirt Devil, that's the company I worked for. One company manufactures all of those products. So I was the field sales representative for that company within Home Depot. So I was the liaison between TTI and Home Depot for all of their product lines. So then from there, I got a promotion to the parent company, which is Milwaukee Power Tools, another power tool manufacturing company. Sales. I'm very good at sales.
So what was your job then?
With Milwaukee Tool?
For Home Depot?
I didn't work for Home Depot.
I mean, when you was there.
Field sales representative. So I was a liaison. So I was required to make sure product was in good standing, like inventory, presentation. Sometimes Home Depot will want their vendors to do product demos. So if a Home Depot was wanting a product demo for any of those brands, that would be my call for within my territory. And I would have between 5 to 8 Home Depots that were within my territory to make sure that Home Depot knew who their liaison was, product was stocked, product was out, demos were scheduled if the store wanted it, numbers were up, growth was at least 20% because that's what that company expected of all of their brands.
Monthly, quarterly, yearly?
Monthly. You had to at least be up 20% in all of your brands.
Is that possible?
It's possible when you work hard. It takes a lot of work. This is sales. Gotta earn it. But yeah, that was my job. So TTI, then I got promoted to Milwaukee. In Milwaukee, I also was the liaison within Home Depot at that point. No, Milwaukee, it wasn't Home Depot. It was non-Home Depot distribution centers. So mine was industrial construction. So think stores you would never know, like City Electric, mom and pop hardware stores that are just people that decide to sell. But yeah, but only for Milwaukee as their liaison for power tools.
And again, going back to Home Depot, you had one Home Depot that you was attached to or multiple?
I had multiple. My territory changed between 5 to 8 Home Depots at one time within an area. And this is when I lived in New Jersey.
You know, this is what I love about this interview.
What?
I've been working with you for 2 years. I did your interview. I still did not know this deep about this experience.
That I have sales experience and I know a whole bunch about power tools.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm always open about it. It was really interesting, and you make a lot of money with sales. Yeah. And but I tell people well, Ferran, it's sales. You can make a lot of money with sales. Why did you decide to leave? Not who I wanted to be. I did feel like I was losing my soul. And then it was just compounded. I felt like I had reached a glass ceiling. The company wasn't what I wanted it to be and how I wanted it to be treated. And I just realized sales is something that I'm good at, not what I enjoy. So it was something that I knew was basically a ticking time bomb of what do I enjoy about being in sales that kept me in this job so long? Because there are aspects that brought me joy. And realizing those items that brought me joy and what other jobs or careers can give me that same joy and use those same skills. Yeah. So then from there, I went into sales operation coordinator for a rental company, a rental construction company, Synergy Equipment, local. And there, again, it was less sales. It was more working with your customers, helping them identify what equipment they needed, but still very sales heavy and construction. And I didn't feel I'm good at power tools. I can work a drill. I can cut some stuff. I can build some stuff. I can do it. But is that who I am? No. So it was I'm getting more to the truth of Ferran. That's what you were talking about today in our fireside, finding out who are you. It definitely takes years. When people say they realized it in a couple months, it's insincere to me. It takes time and a lot of self-awareness and growth and reflection of okay, this is what happened. What did I get out? It takes time. So it takes time. So from there, I had my internal Scrum Master job with ACI, Agile Continuous Integration. And with ACI,
how did you get into that though?
With ACI?
Yeah, the job.
With the internal Scrum Master with ACI, my Agile mentor, LaShonda. So I met her at an Agile meetup, connected. She was like, yeah, you seem like the type of person that could do this. And I had heard about Agile from my mom. So it was perfect. So
you have no knowledge or experience?
No, I had heard about it from my mom.
Knowledge, but training or
nothing
experience.
At that point. Yeah. Nothing. It was I heard about it. My mom convinced me to go to some Agile meetups. I said, sure. Then I met this woman. She's like, yes, you seem like the type of person that would be a great Scrum Master. All of the things. And then that's when she said, invest in yourself. I paid for the class, took the class, learned it, got through it, got my certification. Then from there, going, like I said before, going to the different Agile meetups and just honing your skill. If this situation, what would I do as a Scrum Master? What should a Scrum Master do? Talking to people in the industry, what is appropriate? What is not appropriate? What are people currently doing? What did people used to do in this job that people don't do anymore in this job? All of the nuances to just learn. Be a sponge. Yes. So then, again, I'm internal Scrum Master, but...
What do you mean by being a sponge?
Being a sponge, soak it in. Soak in what people are trying to help you by telling you. I would say, for lack of a better, people, American culture, there's a reason to not be a sponge, to come into situations like, I already know. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be that way at all times. Be a sponge. Humble yourself to be receptive for information. And I think that's the best place to be as a Scrum Master, as a person, and in life. Yes. So internal Scrum Master, honing the Agile coaches, preparing their trainings, preparing their conference presentations. And then that was also when I was working part-time as an internal, because I was doing stay-at-home mom life because I had just had a baby. So it was perfect for me. It was remote. It was part-time. I could hone my skills. It was a perfect job for me. And then I said, I'm ready for more. My son's about to be 15, 18 months. And I started applying for jobs and found AdventHealth. No, AdventHealth I didn't find out. A recruiter found me and said I was perfect for AdventHealth. That was what happened.
And you was perfect for us.
I
think AdventHealth lucky to get you, to have you.
Thanks.
Honestly.
Add value. Least a Scrum Master could do is add value.
And I don't know how you feel about your prior experience, but I think all those experience, the real life experience of working at different places, I think that make you even more stronger when it comes to the sense of the business. Because the way AdventHealth work is they have a business, they're driving business, and some of the time we have to understand, and you do a great job with that, is we sacrifice process, Scrum many times.
Shh, don't tell people.
To deliver, right?
Yes.
But we come back and so the top thing that is in my head is how we go back on March 15, how we go back to more normal and pick up the thing that we were missing for last 2, 3, 6 months.
I agree. As working here, yes, that is something you have to get used to, you have to understand, accept, and adapt to. So I agree with you.
And I really like that you have that business sense, that if we are doing this and it something for the business and impact, you able to understand that impact and empathize with it.
Yes.
You did say twice about losing your soul. What that mean for you?
Losing my soul means losing my identity of who I am, what are my morals, what is my standard for a job or for money. That is losing my soul. Like being true and honest Ferran and telling you that something is not going to happen, not being able to say that, to me is losing my soul. If I can't tell someone this is crazy, you are crazy, this is unrealistic, and I have to hold that back, that is me losing my soul a little bit. When I was speaking specifically about being a lawyer, is when you learn in debate, sometimes you have to advocate and defend a cause, purpose, person, whatever, that you disagree with. And some would say to be a good lawyer means you can argue both sides and win, which is true. That's what it is to be a good lawyer. To me, I would feel like I'm losing my soul and having to fight, defend, advocate for something that I don't agree with. And depending on where you work, who you work for, however your situation is, that may happen to you. And I didn't even want to put myself in that situation to have to fight for, defend, advocate for a cause that I don't agree with. I would feel like I was losing my soul in that aspect. When it came to sales, I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy showing people the value of the product that I work for. Like working for those power tool companies, they were great tools. They add value for specific customers. But I had people in my life, managers in my life, that they would say they wanted me to push harder to close the deal. I felt I was pushing harder to force a customer to buy something they don't need or want. And then the reverse would say, no, you didn't force anyone to do anything. They always have the choice. How many times do you feel like someone pressured you into buying something? That is when I felt like I could be losing my soul. I know you don't need this, but I have a job to push you to buy the most expensive tool in my deck. Or a new product that I know you don't need, but it's my job to push you into buying this product. People would say advocate, advise, make awareness of. At the end of the day, you are buying something that you may not need. And that doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy. So it's not something that I wanted to do.
I don't know if you realize this about you, but you're so clear. You're so clear about what you
wanted
believe.
to be a lawyer. I wanted to, again, words, precision in your words. Basis of being a good lawyer. Precision in your words and intention. You got to learn it because that's how you can get caught up and not be a good lawyer.
Right, but I'm not saying how well you're articulating. I'm saying how well you know your inner side of yourself.
Oh, time. It takes time and like meditation.
You articulate very well. I'm not saying that's great, but you know your inner side and then you articulate it really well.
I mean,
Sorry, you were saying
meditation and just time within yourself. However you meditate, wherever you meditate, what helps me is just time within myself to think about my day-to-day, my life, the decisions that I made, have to make, and what it means to me. Help me grow within myself. That's it.
Do you do that daily? How what that look like?
Nothing specific. I would say in the past it was forced intention to self-reflect. Forced intention to say, I'm going to sit here and reflect back on the day, the decisions that I've made, what is my path, and how I feel about my decisions. Intentional. Like, I remember setting intentional time, driving in my car with no place to go, but at that point in my life, driving is what gave me a time to focus with no interruptions. Now, I would say any moment is a moment to self-reflect. Whether you're in a car, whether you're taking a shower, whether you're washing dishes, cooking dinner, anytime. But that didn't happen overnight. It was intentional, of like mundane, how was my day? To, okay, how was my feelings? Are the ripple effects of that decision? How am I feeling about that decision? And how does that affect the people around me? Things like that.
So we covered journey part, last two things, right? So how do you discover your dreams and goals?
By identifying what's my long term. I don't say I want this. The way I realize is, what do I want in the future? Which is kind of like what you asked, like how do I identify my dreams? But those are my current dreams. I identify my current dreams by what do I envision my future. So, example, how do I envision my life to be when I am 60? That's what's been riding my plate right now. How do I envision my life when I'm 60? Well, what do I want my average day to look like? I want to have my home in Florida. I also want to be able to live in Thailand for 3 months in my Thailand condo, and or I want to be able to be on my land in Colorado and just be free. That is how I see my life. Because at 60, I'm a millennial. Can't know if you tell. But I'm a millennial. And the government says that Social Security will not be around for millennials. We will not be able to use Social Security as part of our income for retirement. So that tells me I can only live off of my money from working that day, hand to mouth, or savings, or 401k. So I need to lower my debt, and how can I live off my 401k? So in identifying that I don't want to work till I'm 67, how am I going to prepare for my life for when I'm 60? How am I going to do that? By saving, buying my properties now, by paying off my debt now, so I can not have to work to pay for my day to day by the time I'm 60. Because I don't see myself working till I'm 60. I really don't. I want to enjoy life. And I hope I'm physically able to enjoy life by the time I'm 60. You just never know.
But I also want to add that you are one of the very balanced person. So you're not waiting for 60. You're taking time out all the time and being with the family. So
you think I take work off all the time? All the time.
I mean, you say all the time, meaning continuously, regularly.
Yes, I do.
That's
I do.
all the time.
Yes, I do take days off because you have to.
Especially Saturday, Sunday.
Yes, that
you
is
spend
family
with
time.
Family.
Yes.
Not like me who.
But I also have a young child.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's a family.
Yeah, I have a young child. I have my husband. We're still considered newlyweds because we've only been married 5 years. So, and he's in nurse practitioner school. So beyond my own job, it's supporting my husband to make sure he graduates nurse practitioner school. And then I'm an only child and an only grandchild. So then it's being available for my mom, for my grandparents. So that matters to me.
Yeah. And I was just saying that I spend a lot of time during the weekend to edit videos.
But your kids are older. They're like, oh, I want to hang out with my friends. I don't want to hang out with you. You know, they're older. You know, who knows what I'll be doing. I'll probably be flipping houses when Keegan's a teenager and saying, Keegan, you're going to virtual school this year, and I bought a property in Timbuktu, and we're going to be gutting and flipping this house while you go to virtual school. You know what I mean? I imagine when Keegan's older and if he has the personality that we have, Richard and I envision like living abroad. Like if AdventHealth stays remote, Richard can nurse, FNP, nurse practitioner, anywhere, as long as they accept your licensure. So to me, like, we could be living in Spain. Can you imagine? I can imagine Keegan going to Spain, going to school in Spain, or virtual class in the USA while we live in Spain and country hop. That is how I see my life. I'm now happy, like, oh, I could be living in Spain. You know, yeah. Or, you know, Mitha's like, yeah, come stay at my family house. I'm like, oh my gosh.
In India?
Yeah, I'm like, that sounds amazing to me. Just spend a couple weeks.
Right?
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, this house and all this, and you're going to love it. And people are super hospitable. You can't ask for any other situation when going abroad. You can't ask for a better situation. Yes. I'll focus.
That is a great discussion. What is your time management?
Like in what way?
Well, did we say goal setting? Okay, so you identify your dreams, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you convert, or how do you pick the top things, and how do you convert them into goals? And how do you execute your goals?
So my husband read a book by some man. It was like, you're 5 out of your 25. Have you heard about this? So you write down all your goals, 25 goals.
Oh, yeah.
And then you pick the top 5.
Yeah.
And then within the top 5, I like to, like, what is it called? The avalanche method. Like, they use it for paying off your debt. The avalanche method, where, like, you have your 25, you have your 5, and then you prioritize that 5, and whether it be financially based or savings based, you focus on that to then ping pong to the next one. So basically just prioritizing in simplest form. So write down your 25, focus on your 5, and go from there. That's it.
That's what you guys do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming you and Richard both agree upon those? Or?
No, we have separate lists.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because his dreams are not my dreams. My dreams are not his dreams. They can be blended, but neither really me. I did not want him to feel that my dreams had to become his dreams. In a sense of me wanting acreage in Colorado. If that is not his dream, that is fine. That is nothing wrong with that. I want that for myself. I see the value in that. And that could be something that I go with my mom, my grandma, or my girlfriends. I didn't want him to feel that he had to be a part of that financial burden of what was my dream, to have that property. So that's an example of a separation of goals. But I mean, as a husband and wife, we do have our communal goals of like redoing the pool or, paying off Keegan's college prepaid. Those communal goals are there, but we do also have our separate goals.
Okay. And then your time management method?
When it comes to professionally as being a Scrum Master?
Well, this is the part where I mostly talk about the personal.
Okay.
But you can include how you manage your daytime, but mostly like your overall day.
So as a person, my time management, it's more task management. In a sense that right now, my task management is focused on helping my husband graduate. All of my side projects, side intentions, and goals have been put on hold to intentionally help my husband graduate. That is what my goal is. To help him graduate, afford to pay for school in cash, and to get that done. That is what my focus is. As a person, time management, from being in sales, we feel like we never have a work-life balance. In sales, you never have a work-life balance. If a customer calls you or an account calls you, you answer that phone call. If they need you to create a business plan, you make that business plan. If it means you closing that deal and making that additional, you do it. So from having those jobs and not having a work-life balance, opening the laptop at 5 in the morning, closing the laptop 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, that is not the life I want to live. So I intentionally make an effort now to close my laptop at 4:30, 5 o'clock. Like, what is the saying? There will always be work. There will always be work. And if it was that important, someone will call you. Someone will call you if it's that important. So that is my work-life balance now. Efficiency during the day and closing the laptop at a consistent time. And it also builds routine for the people around you. Like, Ferran is always available during this window, but I know that she's not intentionally available after this window. So it builds routine, predictability with the people around you.
But what after 4 or 5? So your overall day, your personal goals. So how do you manage the time around that?
Like my goals of like.
Do you have a physical list or do you have?
Yes, yeah. I do. I have a physical list of my top 5. My top 5 family goals, and then my own personal goals. They're literally on papers, like little Post-its in front of my desk to remind me to make conscious decisions of what my goals and intentions are. Perfect example today. So, saving up for the down payment for my Colorado property. I'm actually ahead of the game, but that's my personal goal. So, I was like, whoa, it's payday Friday. Let's go out to lunch, Ferran, treat myself, me, myself, and I. And I didn't, because I saw the Post-it of my intention and goal of getting enough money for my Colorado property, and I didn't. I ate at home. And I'm a city girl. I don't like eating at home. I like to go out to eat. And I made lunch at home to save myself money, to save for the down payment of my Colorado property. Things like that.
That is happening.
It is happening. I can show you the Zillow postings. I can tell you my plan to meet my minimum requirements for my down payment, what I want to do with this property once I own it. Like, what is the saying? Speak it into existence. Like, it is existing. It exists in my mind. Like, I know what property, what are the minimum requirements of my property, what I need to do to make the down payment, what I'm going to do with it once I get it. It is an intention. What is the saying? All other things are creatable, but there's only a certain amount of land.
Moving to the last segment.
Okay.
But before I do that, is there any question that I did not ask and you want to answer?
No.
Is there any question for me?
I don't think I have time for that. It's 5:06. But no, for today, I'm good.
Okay. So, what is your message to the audience?
My message to the audience is push for what you want. Don't be aggressive, but push and advocate for what you want. If you want it, eventually it may come. Be humble. Ask for support and for help. And just be a good person. Be a good person. That's it.
Thank you so much, Ferran, for
No
coming
worries.
for this interview, for this discussion. I think this discussion will help many people, whoever is watching.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was fun.